a chance to speak about SCCM, also known as Configuration Manager, and Windows Intune, two very exciting products from Microsoft that provide device management capabilities. Ralph Kittle. I'm a Microsoft Data Center consultant here at New Signature, and I lead the project team responsible for System Center, Hyper-V, Windows Azure, Active Directory, SQL-based engagements, pretty much anything around the data center we work on here. I've been working in the IT field for over a decade, been with New Signature for about the past 2 years, and have worked with many different customers throughout my career on improving processes in the data center. My experience with Configuration Manager dates back to the days of SMS, but my focus these days has been around the latest and greatest, SCCM 2012, working with planning, design, and implementation, including moving customers with existing 2007 environments to the new 2012 platform. Throughout this presentation, we are going to take a look at managing modern devices with System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager, also known as SCCM, and Windows Intune. The information we're about to take a look at today has been pulled from many different sources, and we will be talking about some personal experiences that I've had with these products. But before we get started, I wanted to give a quick shout out to Wally Mead at Microsoft, who recently gave a SCCM and Intune presentation at the System Center Universe Conference. So some of the slides in this deck were borrowed from Wally, and I want to thank him for his hard work in making my job a little bit easier today. Before we deep dive into either technology, we'll do a little bit of level setting to ensure that we're all on the same page. We're going to take a look at both SCCM and Intune today, the differences between the two, and integrations available when both products are deployed in the same environment. For many years, Configuration Manager has been Microsoft's enterprise offering for systems management, with features including hardware and software inventory, enhanced patch management, software distribution, and operating system, just to name a few. Operating system deployment. If you're not familiar with Windows Intune, Intune is a public cloud-based offering Microsoft introduced back in 2011 that provides management of PCs and mobile devices. For PC management, Intune is really primarily aimed at small to medium-sized businesses, companies really that are looking to manage up to around 500 computers. And Intune itself provides some of the capabilities we've been accustomed to within Configuration Manager, including software delivery, software updates, patching, endpoint protection, and some settings and policy management. While theoretically you could go up to about 20,000 Windows workstations in a single Intune subscription, we generally see our customers running a lot less than that. And as they start growing, moving and migrating from Intune towards the more advanced features available within Configuration Manager for their workstation management. If you have any experience with SCCM already at this point, you might view Intune almost like an express version of SCCM that runs in the cloud. The nice thing for smaller businesses regarding Intune is that it is a quick and simple way to introduce centralized management to the devices in your environment. It does not require an investment in hardware, software, specialized knowledge, like an implementation of SCCM does. Instead, as a cloud-based service, it simply just requires your organization to register for an account with Microsoft and assign and configure your devices that require management. Costs for Intune is handled through a monthly subscription fee for each end user, with the ability to manage up to 5 different devices for each licensed user. Device management is handled through an internet-facing web portal, which allows your administrators to make configuration changes to the devices that you're managing in your environment anywhere they have internet access with ease. Operating systems supported for the Intune agent include the Windows client family of operating systems from Windows Vista onward. Intune also provides support for device management around Windows RT, Windows Phone 8, Apple iOS, and Android devices, and we'll be taking a little bit more of a deeper look into that today. If you're a small business, it's very possible that Intune may fulfill all of your client administration needs, and you may administer all of your workstation class and your mobile devices as well, like phones and tablets, through your Intune subscription. But what if you're an existing configuration manager customer, or you decide that you need some of the more advanced features we see within SCCM, like operating system deployment, and you're looking to figure out, all right, should I be deploying SCCM? Should I be deploying Intune? Should I be deploying both? How does Intune fit into a situation like this? For these types of situations, companies are going to traditionally use SCCM to manage all of their workstation class devices, and then they'll use Intune to manage their mobile devices. So it's a pairing of the two technologies, less of an or question and more of an and result. So Intune and SCCM offer integration to bring the administration of mobile devices registered with Intune into our SCCM console, so we can get a single pane of glass type of view. So, we're only having to go to one console really to manage the different devices in our environment, but the mobile devices themselves will be registered through our Intune tenancy. Microsoft's viewpoint around client management in the past few years has been to manage a device where it exists. So excluding the example where Intune was being used for all device management, you could look to use SCCM to manage all the devices in your local network, or machines that may connect in via VPN or something like direct access that are seen as being within your local network, and then use Intune for your mobile devices, which probably won't be connecting into your local network as frequently. Because these mobile devices do connect, though, to the internet more frequently, it makes sense to manage these devices from Intune, which is an internet-based and internet-connected management environment. While SCCM allows integration of Intune objects into the SCCM console for that single pane of glass view, it's only going to do so for our modern mobile devices, like our phones and tablets. It generally does not offer integration for Windows workstations that would be managed through the Intune client. So in the case of those mobile workstations, I would recommend we place those into SCCM, because if we were to manage those devices with Intune, we're going to start losing the single pane of glass view. So just to kind of level set and think about where our different devices are going to be coming in, there's really a place for each product in this scenario. Since these devices are mobile and may not connect into the local network frequently, it's worth looking into maybe adding some additional remote options. I'd mentioned VPN is one option, but that can be a little tricky because who knows when our users are connecting in via the VPN, and can make management of those devices a little bit more difficult. So if you haven't looked into it, a great solution to look into is Microsoft's Direct Access, which can allow those machines to look and act as if they were part of the local LAN, regardless of where they're connected from. So I appreciate the opportunity to try to give that kind of level set and display those different technologies. We're going to go obviously a lot deeper into both of them, but it's worth kind of noting where each came from, where each strengths are, and where we would look to use them in their in their respective environments. So with all this now on the table, we can discuss both Configuration Manager and Intune in more detail, and we'll talk about the advantages they can provide your organization. Given the 90 or so minutes that we have today, we're not going to be able to cover every single feature available in SCCM or Intune, as there's so much to say, but we will try to keep things at a high level, and our hope through the engagement today is to develop some interest in these products so that we can further explain their main capabilities. If you'd like to see something explained in greater detail, we do have obviously a sales team here at New Signature, and through your registration process, there should have been some options for reaching out with any questions. This particular webinar was configured and set up by Christine Price. So if you'd like to see something explained in greater detail or a more deeper dive demo, particularly associated to your environment, please feel free to reach out to Christine, and she can coordinate a deeper exploration that's more tailored to your specific needs. So starting with today's challenges, we've got users. Our users want to be mobile. IT is ever evolving and has continued to evolve over the past few years. Years ago, users used to be more stationary in that you came into your office, you had a desk. At your desk was a computer that allowed you access to your corporate resources, and that computer always stayed in the office, and IT could easily connect in and manage that device. Through that traditional model, it used to be that users were given a specific desktop with a specific set of applications, and it started moving in some companies where users may have been given a little bit of a choice to what device they wanted to work with, But again, that was based off of the devices that have been certified by the IT department. Things have changed dramatically. Today, our users, especially the younger generation, want to be mobile and want to be able to get their work done from wherever they are. This includes working with mobile devices such as Surfaces and iPads and or smartphones, and they want to be able to use these devices to get their work done. To be able to get your work done, you need to have access to the appropriate applications, access on your corporate network, and access to necessary resources. So you need to have some way of providing those applications to your users, no matter where they are, on whatever platform they happen to be utilizing to get their jobs done, with our end goal of getting access or providing them access to corporate data, such as their email, websites, documents, no matter where you are, no matter what device you're on. So we see, our users are starting to have more and more devices, that we've had an explosion of devices, multiple different types of applications that those devices are accessing, and even more infinitely, expanding amounts of data that users are needing to be able to use to be productive in their work. So given all that, IT faces some challenges. We need to be able to allow our users to be mobile, allow them to have some sort of choice when it comes to the devices that they're working on, because very few people these days are just working on one device. They have multiple devices that they use to get their job done. Our users need to have the necessary applications required to get their jobs done and access to corporate data. But as IT administrators, one of your primary concerns, other than just providing these capabilities, is making sure that it's secure and making sure that your corporate data is not at risk and is not being compromised because of your users being more mobile and accessing the data on different devices. So IT needs to provide that underlying infrastructure and the management layer to be able to provide these resources as well as maintain security. Microsoft refers to this as people-centric IT. And through people-centric IT, we are looking to allow our end users to be productive from wherever they are and whatever device they want to use. We also want to unify the environment for our IT administrative staff. So that means we don't want you as IT administrators to have to go to multiple different portals to go out and manage all the different users and all the different, different types of environments with, the different need for different devices. We need a simple solution with a single admin console to do all of our administration. And in addition, we need to allow the IT staff the ability to protect corporate data and make sure that the data is not compromised. So, let's say somebody goes ahead and loses their device. We don't want, any corporate data being lost. We want to be able to wipe that corporate data. Or maybe the device is no longer being used, for business use. We want to be able to remove any corporate data that may be on that device, but leave any of the user's personal data still intact. So we're looking to enable users and unify our environment, but also at the same time protect our data. So how do we do this? So we have two different management platforms, and we highlighted these on the intro slide. This slide starts really to talk about these solutions available to meet our various goals. The left side being focused on Configuration Manager, and the right side being Windows Intune. So Configuration Manager, it's an on-premise environment that you would deploy, in your data center, and Windows Intune being offered in the public cloud space by Microsoft. Configuration Manager has a lot of great capabilities, really great product, and worked with it for a long time, have had a lot of great success stories with it. But it does take some time and experience to really figure out how to configure it and use it to solve problems in your environment. So Configuration Manager itself is a complex product, but given the proper knowledge, it has a lot of power to bring a lot of positive change to your environment. And once you figure it out, it's a really fantastic solution. You can do a lot of stuff with it. But it does require time, effort, commitment, support, all of which New Signature is happy and capable to provide and assist with. So if you're not familiar with Configuration Manager, we do a lot of work on that side. But Configuration Manager is not, I wouldn't really say it's designed for most small businesses. If you've only got, say, a dozen devices in your environment, you're more than likely not going to be using Configuration Manager to manage those devices. And I've even seen some cases where, we've had 100 systems in an environment, and, Configuration Manager really didn't make sense for the return on investment in that point. So in 2011, Microsoft released a simpler solution for those environments, those smaller environments that did not have the expertise or resources to implement and manage a full-blown configuration manager environment. And that's the right side of our screen, which is Windows Intune. Windows Intune is a cloud-based solution that will give you some of the capabilities for managing your workstations we see in a configuration manager, but it does it through an internet-based cloud service. So we're able to get some inventory, deploy some applications, manage patches, push out endpoint protection to our clients, run some reports, and so on. The capabilities may seem a little, limited in comparison to Configuration Manager, but the trade-off is it's much easier to implement and utilize. But it also, at that point, for desktop management, kind of becomes a choice for companies to make. Do we want to use Configuration Manager for our workstations, or do we want to use Windows Intune? And we really, for workstation management, we're not going to have both, at least not to manage the same computer. But along with this, we're starting to see a lot more and more mobile devices, and IT groups need a way to manage those mobile devices. So Microsoft's responded to this need and has continued to increase the capabilities available for mobile device management with Windows Intune, and provided the capability for combining Configuration Manager and Intune into a single pane of glass solution for managing all of your devices. So even while it's a separate solution our devices are connecting into, it's still really that same solution that we're using to manage our devices, and that's the Configuration Manager console. So it really becomes less of an either-or choice, and really instead of it's becoming a push towards using both solutions for some of those larger environments, where we're using Configuration Manager for the on-premise clients and Windows Intune for your mobile devices, like phones and tablets. Configuration Manager runs in-house, and it still manages your in-house devices, and Intune is used to manage your mobile devices. So with those two solutions, what we do is through Configuration Manager, we'll go ahead and set up a connection into Intune to go ahead and provide that single pane of glass view, so we can see all of our managed devices from one single pane, regardless of whether they point into Configuration Manager or Intune. So what is Configuration Manager? Configuration Manager really is all about managing the devices that are in use in our environment, and can be used for both client and server management. The way I like to think about it is it really starts, and brings us through the whole life cycle of a device in our environment. So it starts really with the ability to image or lay down a base operating system and customize on either a server or client operating system platform. You can go ahead and specify specific configuration guidelines and really get dynamic with your deployments. Once the OS has been deployed and installed, we're going to look to use Configuration Manager to go ahead and continually patch and update that system, as well as provide the ability to push out new software to the system. So once the system is deployed, what are the main things we're doing to maintain it? Well, we need to make sure it stays up to date, and we need to make sure we can manage the software on it. So we can do that also based off specific templates and guideline configurations. We can use SCCM to keep track of our system inventory. So what software and what hardware is out in our environment. We have remote control capabilities. We can provide IT administrators the ability to ensure, various system configurations are maintained. So we can look to say all of our machines should have the following registry key present. Do they? Can I report on that? We have ways of ensuring that our desired configurations are being met. In addition, we've got a really vast reporting system. So many built-in reports that come with Configuration Manager. And if you know SQL reporting, you can create custom reports as well. Finally, but not, this is not an exclusive list, but just some highlights. System Center 2012 endpoint protection is now integrated in with SCCM 2012. So if you wanted to run Microsoft's endpoint solution, you would need to install and configure a Configuration Manager environment first, and then you would then be able to deploy the endpoint protection agent out to the machines in your environment. So on that same token, what is Windows Intune? So while Configuration Manager is really all about managing the devices that are in our environment, Windows Intune is generally seen as the way to manage devices outside of the confines of our corporate network. like traveling laptops and mobile devices. Again, you could use Windows Intune completely internally. The focus that we're looking at this presentation is really the combination of using Configuration Manager along with Intune. So while some companies do use Windows Intune exclusively as their management solution for both their on-prem and remote devices, I mentioned Windows Intune can almost be thought of like an Express version. So if you're familiar with the Microsoft Express software versions, you can think of that as a configuration manager version of that that exists and runs in the cloud. But one thing that's nice about public cloud technology is the vendors can adopt and increase technologies a lot faster than you can in-house. So we've seen Windows Intune continue to add features. We know it's definitely a large part of Microsoft's vision, and it's been exciting to see as they've added features throughout the various editions. So, when we're talking about the differences, you're talking about Configuration Manager that started as a product called SMS back in the 90s versus something that's been around for about 4 years now. It will take some time, but we are seeing vast improvements and really seeing the benefit between the two different environments. Windows Intune, though, as a cloud-based solution, it does not require any infrastructure to get Intune running in your environment. The management's done through a simple web console you go ahead and log into, and all we really need to manage devices is for them to have internet access. So that really makes things pretty easy for us. If we're managing a workstation class device, we simply install the Windows Intune agent on it and associate that machine to our Windows Intune account. From that point, no matter where the device goes, we can go ahead and manage it as long as it has an internet connection, and we can do things to it like managing software updates, endpoint protection, push out software to that device. So that can be really helpful for machines that do not connect in very often, and you're looking to manage everything through a Windows Intune environment. I mentioned, while Windows Intune does provide some good PC management capabilities, those capabilities are scaled back when compared to Configuration Manager, which is why we see organizations that need the advanced features really running both Configuration Manager and Intune in tandem, and we'll continue to talk about that in a little bit. If you're a shop that runs Configuration Manager already for your in-house devices, Windows Intune would be your solution for your mobile devices, such as your phones and tablets, and we'll continue talking about that more and more as we continue through the presentation. So, unified device management. When we need to utilize all available features between these two products, we'd see ourselves in a similar situation to what we see outlined on the screen right now, where we're integrating these two components together to provide management of the different types of devices we have in our environment. At the top right corner, we have the Configuration Manager and the devices that it can manage, including our Windows environment, which includes devices right now as old as Windows XP, but I'm really, really hoping if you do have any XP devices in your environment, you're migrating away from those. Support is very close to ending in just a few weeks, all the way up to the latest and greatest Windows 8.1 and Server 2012 R2. Something that was introduced in Configuration Manager Service Pack 1 was management for the Mac OS system, which really, again, this is a Microsoft platform. We are going to be able to do a little bit more in our Windows platform versus the Mac, and the Mac is something new to management, but it's great to see Microsoft realizing the importance of being able to manage the Mac devices in our environment. The focus there is really around inventory, settings management, and application deployment. We might not be able to provide a match for every ability on the Windows side for the OS X devices, but it's great to see Microsoft having it in their roadmap to continue to be able to increase what we're able to do on the OS X side of things. On the bottom side, we see the mobile devices that we'd want to manage. So our Windows RT, our Surface devices, Windows Phone 8, iOS, and Android. We also can manage Windows clients, but we're not focused on that really in this slide. We're seeing the separation of that between Configuration Manager and Intune. To manage these devices, we're going to use Windows Intune. And while Windows Intune provides management for the workstation class devices, again, we're just really focused for here on the mobile devices. Configuration Manager and Intune are two totally separate products, separate licensing, There are some ways to, I believe there might be some licensing programs around the two together, but generally speaking, they're seen as two disparate products that are traditionally managed through two separate portals. So as IT administrators, we don't want to have to manage two different portals. We're looking to bring that single pane of glass interface to our administrators. We will look to set up integration and configuration manager to be able to connect our Intune subscription in so that we can manage all of our devices from that single administrator console, unifying our infrastructure, making it as seamless as possible. So platform support. Following gives us some idea of what we can do with each platform. So, and what platforms make sense for which operating system, and we'll talk a little bit about this. So, everything shown in red is pretty much new to the R2 release of Configuration Manager 2012. So we can see as they've been coming out with updates, we've had some new features being added in for various platforms, and this coincided with the most recent release of Windows Intune, which came out in October of last year. So starting with the latest and greatest, Windows 8.1, there's actually three methods for managing a Windows 8.1 device. The method that I would go is, the first method, I'd recommend going with installing the Configuration Manager client. That allows us to receive all management features. Our end user experience for users using that full client would include a program called Software Center to be able to download applications that have been targeted towards their system, as well as an application catalog for user-targeted software deployments. Instead of installing the Configuration Manager agent, we do have some other options. Just bringing them up so you're aware of them, but the best scenario we're going to be in is managing this device with Configuration Manager. But instead of installing the agent, we can utilize something that's new to Windows 8.1, which is its own built-in management agent. Refers to a standard that's known as OMA-DM, which is a mobile device management agent that is actually built into the operating system of Windows 8.1. So if for some reason we didn't want to use ConfigMan, or maybe for that device we didn't want to manage it using ConfigMan, we could actually manage that device through Windows Intune with no additional agents needed, just by turning on a feature in the operating system. This may reduce, the management functionality of the device, as Intune really is a scaled-back feature set compared to Configuration Manager in terms of workstation management. But it may be something that interests you depending on your specific scenarios. If you manage the Windows 8.1 device through Intune, the end user self-service portal is actually accessed through the Windows Intune company portal app. So that's a native application for delivering applications that have been targeted via Intune, and would really be a replacement for the application catalog. Third way, which isn't listed right now under Windows 8.1, is to install the full-blown Windows Intune agent on that device and manage it solely through Windows Intune. This would work fine if you were a Windows Intune only shop and you were not looking to integrate with Configuration Manager. If we install the Windows Intune agent on a Windows PC, we're not going to be able to manage that device through Configuration Manager. So the integrations with Configuration Manager are for mobile devices, not for workstation class devices in the Windows Intune environment. We're really looking to avoid that at all costs, especially if we're using Windows or if we're using Configuration Manager, because that's going to force us into two portals to manage our devices, and we really want to avoid that. That's not going to make us efficient. For our other Windows-based machines, including Windows PC and Windows Server, we're going to install generally the Configuration Manager agent to manage those devices. For our mobile devices, Windows RT's got OMA-DM built in, so we just have to enable a feature built in. It's got its built-in agent, so we can manage it through Intune. Windows Phone 8 still has a ways to go. The OMA-DM agent is pretty limited there, but it is built into the operating system. It's just, again, an item under settings that needs to be turned on. From the mobile device side, we're really going to see the best management right now for the iOS and Android devices. iOS devices are going to use the Apple MDM protocol. So for something like an iPad, we actually don't install the agent. We're going to use the agent that's already built into the operating system from Apple. Acts pretty similar to the OMA-DM agent in our other devices. Something new, though, that's we see on the end user experience side for iOS is a new Intune portal. So you can go ahead and download that from the Intune iTunes store, and this can allow you to get all the applications that are targeted towards your iOS device. Android support is increased with the latest releases of Configuration Manager and Intune, so we see red for both of those items under Android. While there previously was Android support, it really was handled through Exchange ActiveSync, which, there's a reason we're looking to manage devices with Intune. It provides a lot more management capabilities than what we got just through ActiveSync. New to this current release is a new Intune company portal app for Android. You can go ahead and download that from the Google Play Store. Once you install this portal, it'll actually install an OMA DM agent that Microsoft wrote themselves for the Android platform to be able to allow us to manage those devices. Finally, we've got for the Macs, we'll install the ConfigMan client. For Linux and Unix, we're looking at servers only in that instance. We generally don't see a lot of people using Linux and Unix on their client devices. So at this point, ConfigMan can support Linux and Unix servers, and we would install the Configuration Manager agent there as well. So let's open up an SCCM console. We've talked through what SCCM is. We've talked about Intune. Let's just browse through a console real quick, talk about some key points in regards to traditional management of devices using SCCM. So what we're looking at right now is the SCCM console. If you're familiar with Microsoft products, we've got what I'd call kind of a look and feel that's similar to Outlook. We've got our tabs on the bottom left side. We've got options we can pick from. We've got a display pane for details. We've got a ribbon. So if you're used to modern Microsoft products, this should look pretty familiar. When we come into assets and compliance, we'll see certain things around the various users, devices in our environment, the collections that are used to manage those devices or users. So we pretty much use collections to organize either the devices or users in our environment. And then from those collections, that's what we use to apply settings. So if we want certain settings applied, certain applications installed, certain updates applied, those all generally get applied through a collection. So the assets and compliance view is where we're going to configure most of those items. We also have some other items here that relate to operating system deployment, our asset intelligence capabilities for viewing what's installed on the various machines in our environment, compliance settings for managing and alerting on the various settings in our environment. So again, is this reg key present? Is this file in the file system present, etc.? And our endpoint protection settings. So really a lot around our assets and again, the compliance options in our environment. Going on to software library, we have what I would call really what's used for the lifecycle management of our devices. So I'd mentioned we are going to be deploying operating systems. And once those operating systems are deployed, we need to make sure those machines stay up to date, and we need to be able to push out applications, whether IT is pushing out applications to those machines, or maybe we're providing things via self-service to our end users. Because the paradigm that we've seen a lot more lately is, you look at your end users, they've got their smartphones or tablets, go to the store, I want it now, press a button, it gets installed in their device. And what generally happens with IT is if IT cannot provide a solution that end users are used to, I can do this on my home device, but it's so complicated with IT, that's where we generally see people start looking to find ways to circumvent IT. So I don't want to do the file sharing with IT. It's too difficult. The software, I can never get it installed right, or I have to file a ticket just to get the software installed. I'm going to go ahead and use Dropbox. And the next thing you know, your applications and files are being shared outside of your company without your regulations, without your compliance, and it's just making for a bad situation. So we want, as IT administrators, to have the tools at our mercy to be able to provide the best experience to our end users, so they come to us and say, wow, IT is really providing us with a great service. I love working with IT. And, as hard as we work as IT groups, most people in end users in our companies, they're usually not at the point where they're cheerleading for IT's efforts. IT is generally seen as a stopping block, is slowing things down, is making things more complicated. So we want to reverse that and change that and make sure that we're able to provide the best service to our users. So from this pane is where we'll configure that lifecycle management. We start with operating system deployment. We have many different options here. If you're familiar with image-based deployment, say using something like Norton Ghost, you're generally looking at, say, building an image, baking everything into that image, baking in all your customizations, sys-prepping that image, and then sending out to all your devices. Configuration Manager uses a different approach. We see here there's an option called task sequences. Task sequences essentially define the list of steps that we would like to occur in our environment. So if we were to take a look at installing Windows 8, or let's go to the latest and greatest, Windows 8.1 in our environment. If we go ahead and edit this task sequence, we're going to see a list of steps. And once we actually go to install that Windows operating system, we're going to perform the steps in this list in this order. So partitioning our disk, applying an operating system image, applying settings, applying drivers. We can do some additional items in here as well. We can run, custom commands. So if we have something that's custom and needs to be scripted on our machines, installing applications during runtime, and really getting dynamic, installing roles, packages, and all sorts of other things. So we can get really dynamic in our deployments. We can detect things in real time in our deployments. So if we have desktop models and laptop type models, maybe we install certain applications onto our laptops but not onto our desktops, like a mobile device or modem from one of our internet providers. We've got a hotspot device, we need a driver installed, or maybe it's built in. We don't need that pushed out into desktops, but maybe it's going to go to every laptop. Or maybe it's not going to go to every laptop, but maybe it's going to go to a certain model of laptop. So we can look actually dynamically during the deployment into our WMI repository on the machines and say, hey, what kind of model are you? Are you a desktop? Are you a laptop? Are you a Dell? Are you an HP? Or are you this model or that model, all the way down to the model level? And that really allows us to be universal and dynamic in our deployment. This gets us into the discussion really of thin versus thick imaging. Do we build everything still into that image? Probably not, because we want to be flexible. We want to be able to use the same image file across many different deployments. So we want to be able to say, I've got one copy of Windows 8.1 that I'm pushing out, but I can push out a different image per se to my finance people or my HR or my operations just based off of the options that are listed in the task sequence. And that may include different applications and different configurations. Now, where we may start to bake things in may depend on the amount of time that's being used or required for deploying our operating system. So say everybody gets Office, and we know the latest version of Office just came out. We're licensed for Office on every machine. We want it on every machine. I might not put that in the task sequence. That's something I may bake into my image. I'm not against baking things in the image, but I try to keep it as clean as possible because it allows me to be dynamic. But if we were to take that example, say you've got a 3 gig image, a 1 gig install file of Office. If you were to push both of those down over the wire through your network to your device that's being imaged with an operating system, it's 4 gigs to push down. If it's built into your image, it's just 4 gigs that needs to be downloaded and then applied as that image gets applied. Everything's been installed already into your image file, just apply it. If we're doing it in the task sequence, we have the image file that has to be downloaded and it gets installed, and then we actually do an install of the application file. So there's still 4 gigs that have to come over the wire, but is it 4 gigs that have to come over the wire pre-installed and pre-configured, or is there time that's needed to actually install that application? And that'll get us into discussions around SLAs, how long should it take to deploy, how dynamic do we want to be, because having all those applications out of the image file allows us to be really easily dynamic and to update the task sequences as needed. So new version of Office comes out, no need to rebuild our image file. We just go ahead into our task sequence, create a new package within SCCM, and deploy. So we really start thinking through the thick versus thin imaging. A lot of power here, a lot of great options here, just built into Configuration Manager. And if you're familiar with Microsoft's MDT solution, Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, that adds in a whole nother boatload of customizations as well. We can get really crazy and custom with our deployments through Configuration Manager. So a lot of great stuff here. But once we get our operating system installed, we're going to need to patch. So we've got options for software updates. This is going to utilize a SUS instance and go ahead and Through Configuration Manager, we get a lot more capabilities. So we're not just approving patches, we can set maintenance windows and schedules and test groups and all sorts of stuff that really expands beyond the SUS environment on its own, but it does utilize SUS in the background to really perform its capabilities. Finally, application deployment. We have many different ways of deploying applications, different models depending on the ways we want to deploy and how we want to detect whether an application is installed or whether it's the right device to deploy to. Microsoft's has been pushing more towards a user-centric model, so the fact that we can push out to users means we can associate users in our environment to devices. So say your manager comes to you and says, HR department or the finance department needs the following application. Well, now I have to figure out who's in the finance department, what machines are they currently running, getting those machines into a collection, etc. If I just have a collection of users that are in the finance department, I can actually use SCCM to figure out what is their primary device, push out to that primary device, and they will get whatever application is needed. So it takes a lot of the guesswork out of the equation. But in addition to that, we have an application model that allows us to target a larger set of devices in our environment. So we're less required to create collections every time we need to deploy an application, and we can actually detect in real time, are you running the right OS? Are you running the right bit level? Are you in the right OU? So we have different detection methods that can reduce the need for creating a group for every application we push out. We also see their AppV. If you've never used AppV, AppV is a really great technology from Microsoft. It requires some additional licensing under the MDOP package. But the nice thing with Configuration Manager is it does not require any additional infrastructure to be able to utilize AppV. So if you're interested in AppV, but you're kind of on the fence, but you're gung-ho on Configuration Manager, it's a perfect time to get into AppV and do some testing. We've seen some great results using the latest Office 365 Pro Plus installer that includes the Office 365 version of Office 2013 that is now available to our end users. We also have some additional tabs here. Monitoring, we can monitor both our clients and our environment. So are they reporting in properly? Is our environment okay? Are we getting any alerts in our environment or the various reports that are available? As I mentioned, we have over 400 reports in all sorts of different categories, both on our environment itself, so the configuration manager environment, and the different devices that exist in our environment. So we can see there's all sorts of different folders that are available here. We can also make this available via the web, so we don't need to really grant console access to be able to see reports. Finally, we have an administration tab. This is where we're doing all our configurations. So setting up which machines can connect into ConfigMan, setting up which machines which OUs we scan with an Active Directory. So if we're discovering devices, which devices do we want to discover? We don't have to do all machines in Active Directory, but which machines are we going to bring in, and the various client settings that we want to push out in our environment. So there are a lot of options here within this console. I've heard it compared to a 747 cockpit. There's just a lot of buttons to press. Don't get overwhelmed with the amount of buttons. Be aware of what capabilities are here, and kind of just, if it's your first time in, take it small, take it slow, and expand out from there. Be incremental and say, I want to revolutionize my operating system deployment process. I don't like the fact that I have 20 different images for the 20 different machine models in my environment. Start there and then expand and get your feet wet with the various technologies. Before long, you really start seeing all the various benefits. But if you try to take everything all at once and say, well, I'm going to deploy operating systems and updates and applications and etc., you may run into some snags along the way, because it does take some patience and some hard work to get things through. So with that, we will be headed back to the slides. So we're going to talk about registering and enrolling devices, primarily around the Intune side. For our on-premise machines that would be connected into that configuration manager environment, there's a few things that we need to configure, but at a high level, we would connect our configuration manager environment into our local Active Directory, sync the machine accounts that we'd want to manage, and then install the client on those devices. So all that can be done pretty easily right from the configuration manager console, as long as you have the right accounts and access, etc. But it does require, it requires some items to be set up ahead of time. So I'm not going to go too deep into that for right now. Just know that once those items are set up, the process of getting an agent installed on our domain join manage client is pretty straightforward, and we can provide all that great management functionality from that point. When it comes to registering and enrolling mobile devices, things are a little more complex, so I want to take a minute to go deeper into how we register mobile devices for management. On the left side, we're going to have our users that want to enroll a device into our environment. On the right side is our on-premise Active Directory environment. In the middle, we have something called Windows Azure Active Directory. Windows Azure Active Directory is what's going to provide identity management and access control capabilities for your cloud applications. If you're already using Microsoft's cloud applications like Office 365, you're already using Windows Azure Active Directory. So if you're using Office 365 or one of those products, your integration with ConfigMan and Windows Intune will be simplified, as your user accounts would already have been synced up to that Windows Azure Active Directory. Eventually, our mobile device users have to get their account information into Windows Azure Active Directory, and that's going to be through a process called DIRSync. Again, if you're already using Office 365, you may have already had this part configured. You can then use things like ADFS or web proxy authentication to configure single sign-on, so your users only have to sign on one time with their corporate credentials. If we look up at the top, we see at the top center is Windows Intune, a cloud-based service as well. We talked about that already. Our goal is to allow our end users to be able to enroll their mobile devices on their own, authenticating through Windows Azure Active Directory and enrolling into Windows Intune. And then once that happens, we want, as administrators, want to be able to see those devices in the Configuration Manager admin console through some integration between Configuration Manager and Windows Intune. As an IT administrator, I want to be able to see both the Windows platforms I have on premise, including any Macs or Linux, Unix boxes, and the mobile devices that the end users are enrolling into Windows Intune. This slide might look a little complicated, but it's really not too challenging to set up. And once you have everything configured, it does allow for simple integration of the mobile devices, or simple integration of our mobile devices into Configuration Manager. So, mobile devices, and we are, again, enrolling in Intune, bringing them into Configuration Manager. What are some of the features we have? So, here we see a high-level feature set that's available for using both of those products to manage our mobile devices. We've got over-the-air device enrollment, so that's important as we see many of these devices that may be registered are going to be BYOD, so we've got our users with their own personal phones or tablets. We want those users to be able to enroll those devices regardless of what their connection is. Self-service portal for our end users. We talked about that on one of the previous slides a little bit already, but we have the ability for our users to consume applications that have been deployed to them. We can target our users with application deployments, and we can go ahead and manage the settings on those devices. So we're able to put some restrictions on the devices that we manage, so that there's some comfort level that the device being managed are secure. So, for example, we can make sure that passwords are required or cameras are being turned off when in sensitive areas and so on. If we're going to target software, we need to know what devices are out there. So we have device inventory. We can figure out what resources they have. Remote device wipe and retirement. If a device is lost or we don't want to use it anymore, for corporate use, we can go ahead and retire that device, or we can go ahead and completely wipe the device with a factory reset. We also have some new features to 2012 R2. One of them is required application deployment. So we can now push out applications to our managed mobile devices. Sounds like a nice feature, but probably won't work in every situation, such as one that has a high level of BYOD or bring your own device. If an end user is using their mobile device for work, we're probably not going to forcefully push out applications to those devices. A few lines down, we can see company versus portal. we can flag devices in our configuration manager console actually as a company-owned device or a personally owned device. And then using configuration manager's application model, when we're deploying software, we can set a rule that says our application will only be deployed on a device that's been marked, say, as company-owned. So using this option, we can then manage our corporate-owned devices and push out applications to those, because guess what? We own those devices. We're going to do what we want to them without invading the space, on devices that are purchased and owned by our end users. So if we don't want to necessarily push out to everybody that's being managed and affect their device, we want to give them the option to install, we can do so. We also have application uninstall. This would probably be more on corporate-owned devices, but maybe there's some mobile applications out there that we don't want our users to have. We can go ahead and remove those applications. We have a new company apps portal. And finally, something a lot of people got excited about in the newest releases are these profiles. So we have VPN, Wi-Fi, and certificate profiles. So we can go ahead and push certs to these devices. We can set up VPN connections automatically. And we have some interesting options under VPN. We can push down a VPN profile to the device, and we can even figure out when that VPN is going to be established based off of certain conditions. So we can route certain applications to say, when this application is run, always go through the VPN. Or when you connect into this DNS namespace, connect through the VPN. So that's a really neat feature. We can also provide Wi-Fi information down to the devices. This is helpful so that our end users don't have to go and figure out what wireless network they need to get access to, and it allows us to maintain those wireless networks a lot easier. So these are, not an exhaustive list, but these are some of the exciting features that we have available for mobile device management. So unified device management. We see a screenshot here of the ConfigMan console. Shows the integration setup with Windows Intune. Let's look back over to the demo environment. We'll look to see this live and see how some of this was configured. So again, here we have the Configuration Manager console running. I'm going to go ahead and we are on the Administration tab. Let's go ahead and expand our cloud services. And we have here some different options. We have the Windows Intune subscriptions. This is where we can go ahead and configure things to tie into our Windows Intune admin tenancy to our ConfigMan environment. Once we do this, this will allow us to manage the mobile devices that have been enrolled in Windows Intune through our ConfigMan admin console. We can only have one Intune subscription per environment, and I've already got one created here, so let's take a look at the properties and see how we work to set this up. To get this configured, we'd first need to log in with our Windows Intune admin account, and that allows us to verify that we own the subscription we're adding into ConfigMan. Next, we're going to want to specify what users and user groups we want to be able to enroll mobile devices. So we might not want to allow all of our end users in our organization to be able to enroll mobile devices. So we have the ability to limit that here. Maybe we start with just the admin staff to do some testing and then move on from there. We can do some branding, such as putting in our company name, maybe a URL for some privacy information, so we can tell our end users, hey, if you're going to manage your device with us, this is what happens. We can also look to set up some company contact information. So I don't have any here, but if we wanted to, in the portal, we can say, here's who to contact, their phone number, the email, support websites, any additional information that would be useful to those end users. We can add in our company logo as well. So we have that option if we want to go ahead and personalize things. This can also help our end users know that the app that they've downloaded and are using is authentic and it's actually managed by the company IT department. Finally, from here, we're going to go ahead and decide which platforms we want to support. So do we want to enable Android, iOS, etc.? So we go to the Android tab, for instance. I've got an Android device myself that I've registered with this environment, Galaxy S4. We can go ahead and it's as simple as just saying, hey, enroll Androids. I want to support Androids in this environment. For Apple iOS, remember we're using the Apple MDM protocol. We're not using the OMA DM. So we will actually need to go ahead and get a Apple certificate, an Apple push notification server certificate. You can see up here we have the ability to create the certificate requests right from our environment. And we've gone ahead and done that, registered that with our Apple account, brought it into the environment, received a certificate, and we can see our certificate is on file for this environment. This whole process takes a couple minutes. It's pretty simple to set up, just as an extra step that's needed. For Windows devices that are managed through Intune. So if we wanted to manage like our Windows 8.1 devices or Windows RT devices, we could go ahead and choose to manage them using their OMA DM agent. We go ahead and enable Windows management here. We can also specify a code signing certificate for the apps that we want to push out. So if we wanted to sign that our apps are coming from us, we can do that as well. For Windows Phone 8, there unfortunately right now is a little bit more required of us than what we saw on Android or iOS. If we want to manage Windows Phone 8 devices in a production environment, it is going to require you to go ahead and purchase a certificate from Symantec. Symantec's the only vendor that provides this certificate. So I know it's not the most friendly solution, but this extra requirement has nothing to do with Configuration Manager or Intune. The cert requirement actually comes from the Windows Phone team side of things. Microsoft, though, they've realized that people may not want to go ahead and purchase a certificate before seeing how the solution actually works. So they've gone ahead and created the program to offer a trial certificate so we can get our feet wet and see if we want to make that investment in that certificate from Symantec. So we can go ahead, download the trial cert, import it into ConfigMan. If we wanted this in a production environment, though, we would need to go ahead and purchase a certificate from Symantec. So now that we've decided what devices we want to manage, our end users can actually go ahead and start enrolling those devices. So let's talk about enrollment. Windows Phone 8, we saw that before in the previous slide, it's got an OMA DM agent built in. So we go to Settings, go to the option for Company Apps within our Windows Phone 8, sign in with our Intune account. It's going to go ahead and register you, install the company portal. Enrollment on Windows Phone 8 is pretty simple, so that's nice. For Windows RT, we've also got OMA DM built in, so we're just looking to find that company app setting that's built in, sign in with the Intune account. For iOS, we got a couple options. The easiest, though, is going to be to go to iTunes, download the Intune company portal app. When you install the app, it's going to say, hey, you're not enrolled to anybody. Ask if you want to add the device. You say add device. Allow the certificate to be pushed down. A few minutes later, the app is installed and your device is enrolled. Windows 8.1, again, probably limited circumstances, but worth mentioning. The OMA DM agent is built in. For a Windows 8.1 machine, we would go to Settings, go to our Network Settings, and go to Workplace. And from there, we can actually sign in again with our Windows Intune account. By default, it's going to say we're not managed, so we would go ahead and enroll. And once we turn that on, it'll ask us for a password, enroll our device, and if we're able to get in successfully, it's now going to actually change to being enrolled, and we should see that device in our ConfigMan console. So let's look at the ConfigMan console at mobile devices. I mentioned collections are a way of organizing devices. We actually have built-in collections, so we can see we've got some mobile devices. So I've got a laptop that somebody at my organization had registered on their own. I had nothing to do with it, but we allowed them to go ahead and bring it in for management. I've also got my Android here, which I'm currently showing is active. And if you're familiar with Configuration Manager, we're going to see a lot of the same options here. So if I go to Properties, I can actually see some properties on this, the versions that are running, when it last checked in, and some other property information. I can see if my client is checking in properly. So when was my last heartbeat? Is my client acting properly? And what settings are currently being pushed down to that device? We also have some nice options for reports. So if I go to my monitoring tab, and let's look at devices, device management. I can see first, let's try all mobile device clients. And it's rendering our report. And we see the two devices there. We see OEM information. We see whether it's marked as personal or corporate. What is the product running on it? When did it last come in? So if we wanted a full view of all the devices, we can see that right from this report. We also have some other options. So if we wanted to get like a view of all the different mobile devices that have been registered, are we supporting more iOS, more Android, more Windows Phone? We have a report and it will generate a nice pie chart for us as well. Unfortunately, our pie chart is not that great because it's 50%. We've got two different devices, but we can see here's how many Androids. It's a nice graphical view. We can export this if we want to send it to management and say, here's all the different devices that we're currently managing in our environment. We have an easy way of calculating that. So we've got some neat reports there as well. So let's head back to our slides. We just talked about enrolling our mobile devices to our environment, so we can really just move past the next couple slides, but we have some items highlighted here. So we've got our devices enrolled. What can we do with inventory? So we took a look at the basic properties of a device that we discovered, but we can also get some inventory information. By default, when somebody enrolls a device in our environment, it's going to come in as personal. And as a personal device, we're only going to do some basic inventory around the hardware, and we'll also look to inventory applications that are installed via the configuration manager and Intune environment. If we want, we can change a device once it's been registered from personal to company. If we were to change it over to a company device on Android and iOS, we will then inventory any personally installed applications on that device as well that were installed directly by the end user through like iTunes or the Google Play Store. So we'd see some extra inventory there. With devices, we will only get the inventory that comes from the applications that were installed via our management platform. So I mentioned this previously, but by using personal versus company, we can then set up our app deployments, ensure that our deployments target only the devices we want to. If we wanted to take a look back to our console again, and look at our devices, we actually have an option. Let's get my mouse back over here. We have an option that I've added in for device owner. So we can actually see right from here which ones are listed as personal or company. And if we wanted to make this a company device, we can just right-click on the device. We have a change ownership option, and we can set this and say this is a company-owned device now. So once we change that setting, the next time our device runs a hardware inventory task and gets that new policy, we're going to get back all the applications that are installed on that device, no matter how they got installed. If we want to, we can also take a look at how we'd go ahead and install software. So let's go over to our software library. And if we look at application management, let's go ahead and look at, we've got an option here for global conditions. And this is where we can see as a device option, we have a couple options here for ownership. So whether for the Windows side or the mobile side. So this is where it's actually defined that we can specify this as a condition to allow us to set our requirement rule on our application deployment. Say only install when ownership is equal to company. So that's some pretty powerful and cool stuff there. So if we go back to our slides, application delivery. This is, again, we're focusing really on the mobile side. For ConfigMan, we have an option just to either deploy as required or as available, and we have a self-service option for end users. Pretty simple stuff there. For our mobile devices, our end user self-service, we see right here is a screenshot of a company portal app. And this is where we'd have our common look and feel for our different platforms. So the naming, the logos, etc., they'd all look the same regardless of how we're coming in. So we see we can go ahead and advertise our apps. We also have the option for deep linking apps. So if we wanted to include something in here that we could download on our own from the iTunes Store or Google Play Store, but we wanted to make it easy for our end users to get, we can link to that app. So, and when we select it, it would actually bring us to that inside that platform store, allow us to log in and install the app from there. So we can actually have kind of a shortcut. On the right-hand side, we see for the company portal, it shows something called My Devices. It may be a little hard to see, but when we are coming as our end user, it'll show a listing of all the mobile devices that we have enrolled in that portal. So if we have a few devices listed, say one of them is our phone, and we've got a Android and we've got a Windows RT device. Say we lose our phone somewhere. Even as an end user, using one of my other devices, I can log in, go to my company portal, click on the tile for that lost device, and I can send a command to reset the device. So I don't lose any I'm not worried about losing any corporate information to somebody that's got bad intents. Further off to the right, we can't see it, but we would see the contact information if we needed to reach out to somebody with issues. So while this company portal is for our mobile devices, ConfigMan on our in-house devices has traditionally had something called Software Center in the last recent versions. Microsoft has recently, within the past few months, come out with a company portal for your ConfigMan clients. So now your on-premise Config Manager clients actually have a company portal as long as they are Windows 8 and above, and you're running the latest R2 release configuration manager. This portal is going to be separate from our mobile device portal because this portal here we see is actually managed through Intune, and this other portal would be managed through Configuration Manager. So as such, we would not see all of our mobile devices when we go into that portal. But ultimately, Microsoft's goal around all of management is to provide similar looks and feels for both end users and administrators for really all the different managed computers running Windows 8 and above and all of our supported mobile platforms. Deploying applications, if we're looking to deploy applications, we can deploy applications to both our mobile devices as well as our in-house clients. We generally are looking to have a collection that we can target with those devices, say which devices are going to get access or are going to get that application installed. We'll go ahead and create that application, and then we'll go ahead and deploy the app to that target collection. So we define which machine should get the application. Now we're going to actually go and deploy it. And whether that deployment is making it available as an available deployment for self-service or a required deployment where we say 8 o'clock tonight, everybody's getting this latest package or this latest update. So we have a lot of options around there. And we have some items here. When we go ahead and deploy our application, it's going to show up in our apps portal. Most deployments that we target towards users are targeted as available. And again, we can perform required app deployments on devices, but if we were to use that at all, we'd likely use that device ownership condition to control which devices would get the deployment. Mobile device settings in ConfigMan and Intune. So again, our theme has been around the mobile device side of things because that's really where a lot of the innovation has been happening lately. The stuff around our clients, workstation clients, whether in ConfigMan or Intune, if that's something you want to learn more about, we're happy to go deeper into on a more individual basis. But we're continuing down the path of looking at the mobile devices. We can see here that the large majority of settings are available for Windows RT, Windows 8.1, iOS, and Android. Windows Phone 8 currently lacking in support for settings management. But additional features are being worked on, so it is in the works. They're set to release with an enterprise feature pack that we should see for Windows 8, hopefully in the first half of this year. Hopefully within the next 3 months. And when that comes out, there'll be an update for ConfigMan, and we should see a lot more check marks on the Windows 8 side of things. But for now, the focus really is around the other platforms. And honestly, iOS and Android are the most frequent out there in the environment, so it's great that we have capabilities to manage those devices in as featured a way as we're able to. Within our ConfigMan console, we also have a node under compliance settings, and that's really where we're going to configure all the various management settings on our devices. And that can include configuring our profiles, so certificates, Wi-Fi, VPN. We're also gaining the ability to configure email profiles from here as well. So if we wanted to push down email profiles to those devices, we can do that also. From here, we can pick the profile type, configure our profile, deploy it. It goes along the same theme where we go ahead and configure something, whether it's an app or a setting. We have a collection of something, devices, users we want to deploy to, and then we deploy those settings to that collection. So, VPN management. Down at the lower left, we should see the vendors that are supported. So we see a lot of major third-party vendors supported outside of Microsoft. Support for really all the standard protocols. And the interesting, fun, exciting fact there is the automatic VPN connection. So we can designate that when we see traffic that hits a specific DNS suffix, automatically establish a VPN for the user. And this also works on our modern Windows apps as well. So we can identify an app and say, when this app runs, send it through the VPN. So some really powerful stuff there. Wi-Fi and certificate profiles. Wi-Fi profiles allow us to send down SSID information, authentication items to the end user so they don't have to try and figure out what network to connect into. Things just work, which is really nice. In certificate profiles, if we need certificate authentication, we can push down any certificate that we'd want to any of the certificate stores on our devices. So we talked about the need to protect data. So we're enabling these devices to come in and enroll. We're providing access to the various company apps on their personally owned devices. It's great that we're able to provide support to our clients and give them applications and access to corporate data. But what happens if they lose their device or they no longer want to use their device for corporate access? How do we manage that? So we've got an example here of a personal device. It's got the user's music, email, games, apps, whatever running on it. The user went and enrolled the device. Once it's enrolled, they get access to corporate apps. So now the user has a device with both personal and corporate data on that same device. As an IT group, we're going to send down some settings to that device. So from the security side, we're going to require passwords. We're going to go ahead and maybe turn off the camera if that's a requirement for us. Let's say the device is lost or stolen. In this instance, we can send a wipe command. So it'll do a full factory reset and protect any corporate data that might have been on that device. Maybe the device isn't lost, but we want to retire the device. So we got a device that was enrolled, and the user no longer wants to manage it, but they still want to keep all their personal data on the device. In this case, we'll go through what would be a selective wipe process. So we saw if it's lost or stolen, let's just go ahead and completely wipe it. Well, what if we want to go ahead and retire it? Let's just take off that corporate data, and let's leave the personal data on there. This process really just tries to remove anything that we put on the device through our management platform, like applications, data, profiles, settings, and so on. Depending on the item, we may try to remove it completely, or we might just remove a component. We might take away an app certificate that allows the app to function, or disable something, or set up some encryption to prevent future access. But nonetheless, we will be able to go ahead and disable that item. So we see some details around here that selective wipe will try to remove the corporate apps. Full wipe will be attempted if it's supported. And these options can be executed by either IT or the end user via the company portal, and allows us to keep our sensitive data or applications off, or remove those information if the devices are lost. We also can provide that data securely through something like remote desktop services. So we have other options there as well. Here we see some more details with what we just went over in this slide and the slide that follows. So whether we're doing a full wipe or retire, we have some details here. Tells us what we're looking to remove on a selective wipe and what platforms we support. What happens when we have lots of devices to manage? Say you've got 1,000 end users and they all have mobile devices that they need to manage. And when you come into the portal, we saw a second ago, let's go ahead and bring that back up. We saw that mine comes in as ArcHiddle Android, gives me a little bit of information as administrator, but let's say it just came in as Android or just iPhone. It definitely makes things difficult. So what we can do around that is we can ask our end users to go ahead and name their devices with their name, or provide a better naming convention for us. But we can also we can also use Configuration Manager to provide device affinity. So if we were to go to a user in our environment, and I'm going to look for myself, let's see, and I can look at primary devices. See from here, I've got my machine name that I've got registered for management through ConfigMan and my mobile device that's been enrolled. So if I'm ever having issues, I can do my management actually and see which device has been brought to this user if there's ever any confusion. So that's definitely very helpful. So today we've just barely scratched the surface of these two great products. I know I did not mention at the beginning that the chat session would be open for any questions. We have had the line muted. If you have any questions, please go ahead and submit them via the chat. But otherwise, if you have any questions on anything you've seen today and, would like some more information, we did have some contact information on that invite. Again, that was Christine Price, who was managing this event. So you can reach out to Christine, and she can provide you with some more information on how you can schedule a more directed demo of the software so that we can discuss how it meets your needs. Because, we've just hit the surface. There's a lot more that we can go into, and we'd be happy and excited to, see how we can present this even further to you. So with that, I'm just going to throw up a slide with some additional information. There are trial resources available for Configuration Manager. You can get a trial account of Windows Intune, Windows Server 2012. So all of this can be set up under eval software. You can try it out before you buy it, see how it works. You can also look to utilize a partner like us at New Signature for any assistance if you want to go ahead with a proof of concept or you're ready to go with a full-blown implementation. We handle things all the way from design and planning to implementing to really even managed services of a deployed environment. So really well versed on the System Center and Microsoft Data Center technologies, and always looking to help. So I appreciate everybody's time this afternoon. I really hope this was a worthwhile session and provided you some new outlooks on these topics, and hopefully piqued your interest to learn some more. I haven't seen any questions come into the chat. So with that, if there's no additional questions, we can leave the line open for another minute or so. But we'll look to conclude things for today. Thank you so much to all of you for joining, and hopefully we'll hear back from you soon with some more interest around these products. Alrighty, the chat queue is still empty, so it doesn't look like there's any additional questions. So we're going to go ahead and close out the meeting for today. Our sales team will be reaching out to you once we post this video online. So if there are some additional people at your office that you'd like to share this with, maybe get the discussion going around Configuration Manager and Intune, we'll get this online and get the link sent over to you for more information. So we hope to be hearing from you, and again, hope this was worthwhile. Thank you so much for your time today, and have a nice afternoon. Thank you all.